Hey guys, tonight we're doing something a little different. I want to tell you three stories. The first is about someone who spends their life beside fire, hammering, coughing, and quietly being blamed for every broken sword and rusty hinge in town. The second follows a person who stumbles into a medieval tavern one rainy night, a place where the ale tastes strange, the songs feel older than time, and not everyone inside walks out again. And the third, let's just say, if you're still awake by then, it might have been meant for you. It starts in the Roman Empire on a morning when you wake up in someone else's sandals and realize you're already late for something, possibly your own execution. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. It's always calming to know who else is still awake. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's first story together. You don't remember falling asleep, but when your eyes open, it's dark, except for the orange pulsing light of a forge. Smoke curls around you like a living thing. The scent is heavy and strange, old sweat, iron dust, burning hooves. You blink through it and realize your hands are calloused, your shoulders sore, and something inside your nose might be permanently blackened. You're a blacksmith. Well, a smith, technically. There's no union, no title, and certainly no day off. Just fire, metal, and noise. It's hard to tell if it's morning or night because you work by flame and candle, and the town rarely cares whether your back aches at dawn or dusk. You live in a half-stone, half-wood shack at the end of a road that's more mud than path. Chickens sometimes wander in. Kids throw pebbles at your roof. Occasionally, someone respectable walks by and makes a face, like you're something they'd rather not admit keeps their doors from falling off. Your forge is older than you and probably more temperamental. It eats charcoal like a drunkard gulps ale, and the bellows, stitched from what might be pigskin or just very unfortunate leather, wheeze like an asthmatic cow. Still, you get up each day and start the dance again. Stoke the fire, place the iron, lift the hammer, strike. It's not glamorous, but it's loud, and that's something. Your arms ache by noon. The town reeve came by this morning asking for a new horseshoe, even though his horse probably has gout. You told him it would take a day. He narrowed his eyes and said it had better take less. You smiled in that way you've learned to, just enough to show teeth, not so much to be threatening. You'll stay up tonight to finish it. Again. It's always again. The hammer you're using now belonged to your grandfather. The handle's cracked, the head's chipped, but it's yours. You know its rhythm like a prayer. And in a place like this, in a time like this, you don't pray for wealth or comfort. You pray for rhythm, for routine, for the ache that means you're still needed, if not wanted. By midday, you're interrupted. A boy, barely 12, stands awkwardly in the doorway. His boots are wet, his eyes darting. He holds out a bent nail. Me mum says, can you fix it? You look at the nail. It's twisted like a drunk man's memory, not worth salvaging. But you don't say that. You nod, toss it into a bowl, and reach for a fresh piece of iron. You hammer out a new one in 2 minutes. The boy watches like it's magic. It'll cost a half farthing, you say softly. He stares at you, then turns, bolts. You don't chase. You just sigh and toss the finished nail onto a pile. You're not making nails for profit. You're making them because a door without one squeaks, and a squeaky door brings a man back with fists. This is how peace is kept, one hinge at a time. As the sun lowers, or so you guess, judging by the dimming smoke light, the fire flares and spits. You've been pushing the bellows too hard, and the embers leap like they're angry. You ignore the blister forming on your hand. You think about dinner, probably stale bread and onion. Maybe salted fish if the neighbor hasn't borrowed it again. You look up and see someone standing in the smoke. It's the reeve. He's holding the horseshoe you made. He slams it down on your table. It's cracked. Not your fault. The iron was weak. He gave it to you. But he says nothing about that, just snarls. Make it again. You nod. You don't want trouble. But inside, a little part of you sharpens. You are always fixing other people's mistakes, and they always act like you made them. Once, a knight came through town. Booming voice, gilded armor, a horse that looked better fed than half the village. He asked you to polish his sword. You did, The blade was already chipped. You said so, he laughed, said it would be fine. 3 days later, word came that he'd died. Sword snapped mid-duel. His squire returned and spat on your doorstep. No one listened when you told the truth. No one wanted to. So you've learned, the smith is strong, but never right. You are the last step before disaster, and the first blame when it arrives. But you keep going, because every door, every gate, every horse, and every meal someone doesn't steal, it all begins here. By night, you sit by the dying embers. Your hands tremble slightly. You think of the tools you still haven't fixed. The tongs that slip, the chisel that wobbles, the anvil that moans a little too much when struck. You think about the boy who didn't pay, the reeve who didn't say thank you, the knight who didn't live. You think about how the fire never really sleeps, and how neither do you. There's something strange about firelight before dawn. It's gentler, quieter, like it hasn't quite made up its mind whether to warm you or burn the place down. You sit up on your straw-stuffed mat, sore in places you forgot could ache. The forge hasn't been stoked yet, but the air still smells like scorched hair and old iron. You dress quickly, rough wool tunic, stiff apron, boots that used to belong to someone with smaller feet and worse taste. Your fingers throb with yesterday's rhythm. Not pain exactly, just the memory of it. You blink twice, slap your hands together, and walk into another day. You were going to fix the cracked chisel this morning, but instead there's a man waiting outside. A pale figure with nervous energy and a rusted blade. You can smell desperation before he speaks. "I need this reforged," he says, almost a whisper. You take the sword gently. It's not a fine weapon, more like a family relic someone's been using to stir soup. The edge is jagged, the handle's wrapped in something that might be old sheep gut. "Why?" you ask. He hesitates. "It's for a duel." You look up. He's shaking. "Is it your first?" He nods. You almost hand it back. It won't save him. A newly polished edge doesn't teach reflex or courage, but the look in his eyes is the same one you've seen in the mirror. The silent deal we make with ourselves when pride is louder than sense. You set the blade down and begin. You don't ask what it's about. Land, money, a goat, a girl. All duels end in the same place. One person upright, the other whispering to the dirt. By mid-morning, you've reforged the blade, smoothed its edge, and even carved a tiny knot pattern into the hilt. Not because you were asked, but because you want the last thing he touches to feel cared for. He tries to pay you in buttons and stories. You take the buttons. You've learned stories are heavy, and most aren't worth their weight in scrap. As he leaves, you notice something else. He doesn't thank you, just vanishes into the fog. This too is part of the job. Your next customer is the baker's wife. She brings a hinge and a rumor. "They say the blacksmith in Greywater died last week," she says casually, like commenting on the weather. "Heart attack, you ask?" "No, bellows exploded, split him clean in half." She cackles. You don't. Then she leans closer, voice lowering. "Means you'll get more work now." You nod. She's not wrong. One fewer smith means twice the load. It also means twice the blame when someone's oven collapses or their ox goes lame. Later that afternoon, you work on a plowshare for a farmer who smells like wet hay and broken promises. He stands too close, comments on your hands, says, "Must be nice having work that matters." You nod again. You nod a lot these days. What you don't say is that blacksmithing isn't noble. Not really. It's survival. Every tool you shape is a favor. Every favor is a debt. And every debt is a silence someone owes you until they forget. You've stopped keeping track of what's owed. You'd rather sleep than argue about a missing coin. As the sun drops, something unexpected happens. A rider arrives. His horse is white, his armor polished, and his face hidden behind a gold-rimmed helm. You've seen men like this before. Not knights, but men who want to be feared like knights. He dismounts, hands you a scroll, and waits. You wipe your hands, open the seal, and read. It's a contract, a commission in fact, for 3 sets of horseshoes, a ceremonial axe, and a decorative bridle, signed by the Baron himself. The rider doesn't speak, just stands there watching you read it. "I can have it done in 6 days, you say." The rider nods once, leaves without a word. You wonder, as the hoofbeats fade, if you're being rewarded or punished. It's no secret. The Baron's men are preparing for something. Drills in the field, supplies stockpiled. Someone said a neighboring lord insulted his banner last month. You're not sure what the insult was. Maybe the shade of blue, maybe the bird on the crest looked too smug. Either way, war smells like copper and stupidity. And now you're part of it. You work through the night. The axe takes the most time, not because it's hard to make, but because you care too much about it. You don't want it to end up in someone's chest. You'd rather it hang on a wall, collecting dust and compliments. While the blade cools, you sit outside and listen to the frogs. The night air is damp. Your knees crack when you stretch. You think about leaving, just walking out, finding a town where no one knows your name or your trade, where you can become someone new, a tanner maybe, or a brewer, something quieter. But you won't. You never do. Because every fire you start ends up feeling like home, and every tool you make, no matter who uses it, carries a little piece of your defiance. You return to the forge. The embers greet you like old friends. You grip the hammer and swing. The sky hangs low today. Heavy clouds droop over the village like a gray wool blanket soaked in river water. Even the roosters crow less. It's the kind of morning that makes you want to hammer slower, speak quieter, and check your shadow twice. You're halfway through sharpening a scythe when someone raps on the forge's side beam. Not the front door, the side. That's unusual. You wipe your hands, step outside, and find her. The widow Marlin. She's wearing black. Not unusual, she always wears black. But today it's pressed and cleaner than usual. She's also holding something in a square of cloth. Her eyes don't meet yours. I need a nail, she says. You blink. You have nails. I made you 12 just last month. She nods. I need this one special. She unwraps the cloth. Inside is a nail, bent, rusted, thick and wrong. Its shape feels off, like it's remembering the wrong kind of purpose. You don't like looking at it. I found this in his bedpost, she says, barely audible. You know who she means. Her late husband, dead 3 months now. A death that felt too easy. Slipped in the tub, broke his neck. But the body turned black at the lips, and dogs barked every night for a week. She lowers her voice further. I think someone forged this wrong on purpose. You take the nail gently, turn it in your hand. I want one made to replace it. Same size, same shape, but right. There's something in her voice that makes you say yes without thinking. Not because you believe in curses, but because she clearly does. And because you've seen too many strange things to laugh. You set the old nail on your bench and stare at it. It hums. Not audibly, but your fingers tingle when they touch it. The iron's cold, even next to the fire. You've worked with iron all your life, and this piece feels wrong, like it wasn't hammered but coaxed. Bent not by force, but by whisper. You remake it anyway. Same dimensions, same length. But you bless the fire before you do. A quiet mumble to no god in particular. You don't believe in anything divine, but the forge listens. And sometimes that's enough. As you hammer the new nail, a wind kicks up outside. The door creaks. Somewhere a child cries. Too far away to be coincidence, too close to ignore. The metal rings oddly, but clean. You quench it in water you fetch fresh this morning. The steam rises straight up. Marlin takes the new nail without touching the old one, wraps it in clean cloth, leaves money on the bench. Not coins, just herbs. Dried lavender, a sprig of rue, and one white feather. You don't ask. That night, you dream of smoke, but it curls upward like words. You see a house with a single nail missing, and a man with a shattered spine who still blinks. You wake up with blood on your pillow. Nosebleed, probably. You work the rest of the morning without speaking. Midweek, a priest comes to the forge. Not the usual parish friar. This one's from another village. Cleaner robes, eyes like frost. He asks if you've made anything unusual lately. You shrug. All my work's unusual. He doesn't smile. Then he reaches into his pouch and produces a coin. Silver, stamped with a seal you don't recognize. I need a lock, he says. One that opens only under certain light. You ask what kind of light. Moonlight, he says flat. You think he's joking. Then you realize he isn't. Locks like that aren't real, but people believe in them, and belief is stronger than hinges. You accept the coin, begin planning. Not because you think it'll work, but because if it doesn't, he might come back. And the next time, He might not be asking. Later that week, the Reeve returns. Not to yell. This time he's quieter. He asks for nails. 28 to be exact. You nod, ask what they're for. He doesn't answer. But 3 days later, you hear that the Reeves' barn burned down. No animals inside. Just a pile of hay and something buried in the ash that no one will talk about. That evening, you find the original nail again. The one from Marlin. It's no longer cold. It's hot. Not forge hot, but warm like it's been resting in a pocket. You touch it once and feel your hand twitch. You bury it in the garden behind your shack, deep. The next day, the lavender marlin gave you blooms. Out of season. You keep smithing, because that's what you do. Strike, shape, sweat, repeat. But something's changed. Not the forge, not the tools, you. You've seen a different kind of metal now. Not cursed, maybe, but conscious. And when you hammer, you listen for a tone that's wrong, because sometimes iron remembers, and sometimes it whispers back. It starts with a cough, not yours, though your lungs rattle every morning like someone shaking dice in a wet leather pouch. No, this cough belongs to the forge. A deep, shuddering wheeze from the bellows, like it's swallowed something it can't breathe around. You stop hammering mid-stroke. The sound isn't right. Not the usual groan of tired leather, or the wooden handle creaking under strain. This is wetter. You step closer. The bellows exhale again, and this time a puff of soot erupts. Not gray, but black as pitch and thick as tar. You freeze. Bellows don't spit soot like that unless something's inside or someone. You lean down, too close, and poke the seam with a coal fork. Nothing. Then, a sudden exhale. Not air this time. A hiss. Something darts past your ankle. You lurch back, banging your elbow against the anvil, and catch a glimpse. A shape. Low to the ground. Slick. Wrong colored. Gone. You sit there, breathing through your teeth. You don't believe in demons, but you've heard enough stories to know that sometimes the tools turn. Especially when the wrong kinds of people start touching them. Especially when you've been hammering for the Baron lately, and his family crest keeps changing shape when you blink too fast. You inspect the bellows carefully. They're cracked in places, but not torn. You patch them with waxed hide and a prayer, then you light the forge again. It exhales like nothing happened, but that night a boy goes missing. The same one who stiffed you for a nail. They find his shoe in the stream full of ash. No one speaks of it directly, but 2 nights later the village priest, the regular one, not the silver coin stranger, knocks on your door after dark. He asks if you've seen anything strange. His hands tremble. I heard something in the fire, he says. You offer him tea. He doesn't sit, just mutters a psalm and leaves before the water boils. You wake the next morning to find a new crack in the bellows, this time shaped like a letter. An old rune maybe, or the start of a very ugly curse. You sand it down, rub in resin, and whisper a name you haven't spoken in years, your mother's. She used to say fire listens. She also said it lies. That evening, you're summoned to the manor. The Baron's steward meets you at the gate. He doesn't say hello, just leads you into a cramped, torch-lit corridor under the hall, into the armory. There on a table is a sword, broken. You can tell at a glance. The fault line is in the tang, the core of the blade. No surface polish can hide a flaw like that. It was forged poorly and by someone careless. It snapped during training, the steward says. You wait for the blame, but then he adds, not yours. You nod, relieved, until he says, but the Baron wants you to reforge it as a test. You lift the blade, it's a fine steel, or once was, light, strong, elegant, but ruined now. To fix it means melting it down, beginning again. You say, I'll need 3 days. He says, you have one. You don't argue. Back at your forge, you prepare the crucible. The fire protests. The bellows wheeze again, harder now, as if resisting. You shout at them, curse them, strike the side with your hammer. They go silent, too silent. Then when you pump them once, just to see, they open with ease. Too much ease. Air whooshes through like it's alive and the forge roars hotter than it should. Your eyebrows singe, the steel in the crucible shivers. You step back. Something's in there, but you work anyway. The reforging takes all night. You don't eat, don't speak, don't blink too much in case the shadows around your tools move again. You shape the new blade carefully. It's better than the original now, balanced, forged in silence. Quenched not in water but oil. It hisses like an animal, but doesn't spit. At dawn, you return it. The steward tests the edge by slicing through a boar carcass hanging in the kitchen. One clean stroke, no resistance. He grunts, nods, hands you a bag of coin. You turn to leave, but behind you someone chuckles. The Baron. He's been watching from behind a curtain. His smile is thin. He says, "Nice work. Most smiths can't keep the forge that hot without help." You pause. You don't ask what he means. You just walk back home and find the bellows clean, new, perfect. Except you never replace them. You touch the leather. It purrs. That night, a new customer comes. He wants a collar made, not for a dog, but a child. You refuse. He smiles, too many teeth, and leaves without a word. The next morning, the village cats are gone. All of them. You work anyway, because the forge demands it. And the bellows no longer wait for your hand. The forge is still warm when you wake. That's not unusual. Sometimes embers smolder until morning. But this time, you never lit it the night before. You didn't even stay in the workshop. You remember locking the door, snuffing every candle, even muttering something half sacred as you backed away from the flame. But now, the coals glow like they've been fed all night. Not angry, just patient. You don't speak. You just walk to the anvil, pick up the tongs, and feel the weight of them settle into your palm like a familiar sin. Something's different today. The tools feel lighter, or maybe your arms just gave up resisting. Outside, the town stirs. Chickens cluck nervously. You hear the baker shouting again. Not about his bread this time, but about how the river looks off-color. Someone says it smells of iron. You don't have the heart to tell them that's not rust. You get to work. The fire no longer needs tending. It breathes on its own now. The bellows creak softly even when you're not touching them, like lungs that never sleep. You shape a scythe head, then a small dagger, then a new gate hinge. All before breakfast. You've stopped eating in the mornings. Your stomach turns when you chew. But your hands, they move like dancers. Midday, you're visited by a woman you've never seen before. She wears a veil, deep red like wine going bitter. She doesn't introduce herself, just places a small pouch on your bench. It jingles. Inside, not coins, teeth, baby teeth, human. "I need a latch," she says softly. "One that won't open. Ever." You nod. Because this is who you are now. The kind of smith people bring the parts of themselves they want buried. Not burned, just locked away in iron. As you work, you hear singing. Not from outside, from the fire. It's faint, almost a vibration, low and rhythmic. Not words exactly, but something close. It feels like the forge is humming along with your strikes, as if each clang is part of a hymn you've always known but never dared sing. You finish the latch. It's too cold, despite just coming off the fire. You hand it to her with tongs. She nods once, leaves. That evening, the steward returns. He brings wine. You don't drink, but he insists. "I shouldn't be here," he says, "but I had to see it." You don't ask what it is. Then he tells you. The Baron's cousin, a lesser noble with too much ego and not enough armor, wore the sword you reforged into battle last week, or what passed for battle, a skirmish in the woods. He cleaved through 4 men in a row. Then just as he raised the blade for a 5th, it shattered. Not from flaw, but from force. Something hit it mid-swing, split it like an egg. The blade's gone. Melted, they think. Nothing left but slag. You stare. "I didn't touch the tang," you whisper. He nods. "We know, the Baron doesn't blame you." You want to ask, what does he blame? But you don't, because deep down, you've stopped making things lately. You've started channeling them. The tools want more. The fire never dies. You sleep less, eat almost nothing, and yet you've never been stronger. That night, you wake to hammering from inside the forge, but you're in bed, alone. You rush out, heart thudding. No one there, but a new blade sits on the anvil, perfectly balanced, carved with a symbol you've never learned, but have drawn in the margins of your dreams for weeks now. You leave it there. 2 nights later, a traveler arrives, cloaked, hooded. His voice is hoarse but polite. He doesn't ask for a sword or armor or tools. He asks for your anvil. You laugh genuinely. He doesn't. "I'll pay well," he says. "You won't need to forge again." You stare at the fire behind him. Still breathing, still singing. You say no. He doesn't argue, just nods, leaves, and takes something from your doorstep as he goes. A cat's tail. No cat. The next morning, you hammer a symbol into your doorpost. Not a ward, not a charm, just a message. I know what I've done. You keep working. Because the fire needs it. Because you're the only one left who remembers how. And because, deep down, you wonder, if you stop, what happens to everything you've made? Every cursed blade, every whispering hinge, every lock that opens only in moonlight. Somewhere out there, they still exist. And you're their maker. You're their father. And this forge? This forge is your sin. That's one story down. You're either fast asleep or just pretending so nobody hands you chores. Let's keep going. Somewhere, far from anvils and smoke, the road curves through fog. You follow it slowly, boots muddy, breath slow, until you see lantern light flickering behind wooden shutters. A crooked sign swings above the door, the Ox and Lantern. It creaks in a wind that doesn't exist. And suddenly you realize you're thirsty for something warm, something strong, or maybe just something that won't remember your name. You step through the door, and just like that, the tavern doesn't have a name. Not really. Locals call it the Ox and Lantern, but no ox has been seen near it in years, and the lantern only works when it wants to. Still, it's where the road ends, which makes it as close to a destination as you're likely to get tonight. You stand under the creaking sign for a moment. It's swaying even though the air is perfectly still. You hear muffled voices, the clink of mugs, the kind of laughter that has sharp edges. The scent drifting from the thatched chimney is not unpleasant, but it's hard to name. Somewhere between overcooked stew, wet bark, and regret. You open the door. It doesn't swing, it sighs. Inside it's dim and smoky, though you're not sure what's burning. It smells like peat, but the color of the smoke says otherwise. A thick, coppery gray that curls in odd directions, sometimes against the draft. The floorboards creak like they're trying to remember your footsteps before you've taken them. You step inside anyway. There's a long table to the left where men in cloaks are pretending not to watch you. At the far end of the room, a woman sings a song in a language that doesn't exist anymore, or maybe never did. Her voice is low, almost asleep, dragging the melody like a sack of old bones. No one claps. You make your way to the bar. Behind it is a woman. You can't tell her age. Her face folds in places, but her eyes are sharp, gold-flecked, and unblinking. Her apron says ALE in a splash of what you hope is ink. She slides you a mug without asking what you want. It's warm, not hot, not cold. The taste is, well, it tastes like something you forgot in a dream and remembered halfway through crying. She nods once. That's the closest thing to conversation this place offers for the first hour. Eventually, a man sits beside you. He doesn't speak at first, just thumps his mug on the bar like it owes him something. Then, without turning, he mutters, "Don't play cards with the one in the red hood. It's not cheating if you're not technically alive." You glance around. There's someone in a red hood near the fireplace, not drinking, just watching the flames and mouthing something, like counting, or chanting, or naming bones. The man beside you lifts his drink. You're new. You nod. You'll want to leave before third bell, he adds. You ask, what happens at third bell? He smiles. All teeth. Too many. Then he downs his drink and vanishes into the crowd. You look for the door. There's only one, but it looks smaller than when you came in. Like it's slouching, like it doesn't want to be a door anymore. The barkeep catches your stare. Best to let it be, she says. Doors don't like attention. You try to reply, but someone behind you taps your shoulder. A hand missing a finger. You play dice, the man asks. You don't, not well. But something in his grin pulls you toward the back table anyway. There's a pile of bones on the board. No dice, just knuckle bones, carved, inked. One is bleeding. You sit. The game is simple. You toss, you wager. You try not to blink when the bones land. You win once, then twice, then a third time. The man across from you squints. What's your name? You don't answer. You just sip your ale and pretend it still tastes like a memory. He leans forward. You shouldn't win here. You smile thin. Maybe I'm lucky. He leans back. Maybe you're marked. You don't ask what that means, because right then someone screams upstairs. A long, rattling scream that rises, falls, then abruptly stops. No one moves. You glance up. Don't, the barkeep says quietly. It's just room 16. You whisper, there are only 10 rooms. She shrugs. That's what makes it so noisy. The man beside you begins packing the bones. We don't play after that, he says. You nod greedily and walk slowly toward the back wall. There's a window. You think, except, no, there's glass. But behind it isn't outside, it's somewhere else. A field, full of chairs, empty ones, facing a tree made of spoons. You look away. The barkeep slides you a plate. Stew, you didn't ask for it. It's warm, thick, and smells like whatever you miss most. You eat without thinking. It tastes like a rainy day you barely survived. Someone nearby coughs. You glance. It's a boy, barely 12. He's sharpening a butter knife on the edge of the table. I'm gonna challenge the singer, he says proudly. You wanna laugh, but no one in the room does. Not even the boy. Instead, they all go quiet, because the singer has stopped singing. And she's turned her head, ever so slightly, in your direction. Her eyes don't blink. Her mouth doesn't close. And her song? It's still happening, just not aloud. You can feel it now, in your chest, your spine, your hands. The boy vanishes. No scream, no smoke, just gone. A chair rocks once, then stops. The barkeep pours you more ale. Best not challenge the song, she says. It sings back. You ask, how do I leave? She shrugs. Out the window if it lets you, or stay till morning. You whisper, and then? She leans in, her voice is moss soft. No one ever stays past morning, not more than once. You're still sitting at the bar. The stew's gone, so is the spoon. Your mug's been refilled without your noticing, and now it tastes like something gentler, like the memory of honey whispered by a stranger. The barkeep, the alewife you guess, is humming now, not a tune you recognize, not one anyone could hum without the walls listening. You lean forward, elbows on the wood. What's in this? She stops humming, smiles faintly. No one asks that anymore, she says. You swallow. I'm asking. She leans close enough that you smell rosemary and something darker under it, something like rain on old bone. She says, would you believe me if I said love? You raise an eyebrow. She shrugs, didn't think so. Then she places a small vial on the counter, amber glass sealed with wax. This is what makes the difference, she says. You pick it up. It's warm. Inside is a liquid that shifts color, gold to green to bruised purple. What is it, what you ask? She doesn't blink. It's the last breath of something that should have died before speaking. You stare. She chuckles, or maybe just a mushroom, depends on who's drinking. You try to hand it back. She pushes it gently toward you. It's already in the mug. You stop, stare into your drink. The surface ripples once, even though you're not moving. Suddenly, you remember a story. Old, worn, told in hushed tones around sickbeds. About taverns that move, that shift, that slide between borders, appearing on roads not drawn on maps. Taverns with ale that taste like dreams, or nightmares, depending on what you brought with you. You look around. Everyone is quiet now, watching. You take a sip. The room bends. Not like it's spinning, more like it's breathing. The wooden beams flex. The walls shimmer. You blink, and the floorboards are water. Blink again, and they're teeth. The alewife's voice floats through it all. First time always hurts. You grip the counter. The taste is enormous, not bitter, not sweet, just vast, like drinking time, like swallowing something that remembers you. And suddenly, you remember her. The alewife, not from tonight, from a dream, long ago, or maybe a fever. Her eyes were the same then, so was the voice. She was singing while your house burned. You cough, the room steadies. Everyone else is still drinking like nothing happened, except the man to your right. His mug is full, untouched. He leans towards you. That recipe, she got it from her husband. You frown. She's married? Was. What happened? He smiles slow. He went looking for the recipe's source. And he came back, but not forward. You're about to press when someone slams a chair down behind you. A man, huge, bald, eyes too small for his head, bellows, "Who took my coin?" Silence. He lumbers toward the bar, shoves 2 mugs aside, points at you. You were near me. You shake your head. He steps closer, reaches for your collar. The alewife moves faster than thought. Her hand shoots out, not angry, not loud, and lands gently on his wrist. He stops. His whole body stops. Then very slowly he begins to shrink. Not metaphorically. His boots slump first. His belt clinks to the floor. His coat puddles down like it's melting. Then there's a rat, standing where he was. It squeaks once, looks around, and scampers under the nearest bench. The alewife wipes her hand on a cloth. No shouting, she says calmly. Not during steeping hours. Everyone nods. You too. The man beside you slides his mug forward. You glance at the alewife. Can you undo that, you ask? She shrugs. Maybe, but he squeaks better than he spoke. The man chuckles. Told you. Love's not the only thing in the brew. You finish your drink. This time it tastes like childhood. Like a birthday you forgot was yours. The room warms again. A fiddle starts playing in the corner, but no one holds it. The alewife clears her throat and begins to sing. The whole tavern listens, even the rats. It starts with the door. Not a sound exactly, more like a hesitation in the air. A soft holding of breath that spreads across the tavern like a slow ripple across a still pond. Every voice quiets, every chair stops creaking. Even the fire seems to lean slightly backward, its flames dimming by instinct. Then the door opens. Not fast, not dramatic, just decisively. And in walks a man whose presence makes your brain pause before reacting. Something about him resists description. Not in a vague way, but in a too specific way, like your mind is seeing the details but refuses to accept them. His boots are wet, not from rain, there hasn't been any, not from snow, but wet like he's walked through memory. And his coat, it's stitched with patterns that don't stay still, shapes that shimmer and blur when you stare too long. But that's not what makes the room still. It's his face, or rather, the missing parts. From the eyes upward, he's fine, pale, sharp, clean-shaven. But from the eyes down, things get stranger. There's no nose, just a flat, smooth surface. No wound, no blood, no scar, and no mouth. Yet he speaks. Room, he says, his voice perfectly clear, echoing slightly, like coming from a hallway you've never walked. The alewife doesn't blink. Room 9, she says. She slides a key across the counter, and when he takes it, his fingers pass through it first, like the key is unsure whether it's ready to be touched. Then he turns and looks at you. Not at your mug, not at your plate, at you. A chill cracks up your spine like a twig. He doesn't speak again, just tilts his head, once like a bow or a test. Then he walks to the stairs. Everyone exhales. The alewife sets down a new drink beside you. You didn't ask for one. Drink that, she says. You obey. It tastes like distance, like safety, like a locked door from the inside. What was he, you whisper. She doesn't answer, just wipes the counter in a figure-8 motion. The man beside you, the one who warned you about dice earlier, leans in. You ever seen a revenant? He asks. You shake your head. That was half of one. You ask, where's the other half? He gestures toward the rafters. You look up and see nothing. But now that you're listening, really listening, you hear it. Breathing, not yours, not anyone near you. Deep, slow, steady. Coming from above or below or both. The man nods. Tavern lets him stay, long as he doesn't cheat. Cheat at what? The man smiles thinly. Living. Someone across the room starts playing cards. The revenant doesn't return, but you see people glancing at the stairs now and then, waiting, tense. The next time the door opens, it's almost a relief, even though the woman entering is barefoot, muddy, and holding a candle that never flickers. She walks straight to your table and asks, have you seen a fox? Black wearing a crown? You say no. She nods once and sits beside you, candle still balanced in one hand. You realize something. She casts no shadow. You excuse yourself, politely. Head toward the hearth, toward the red hooded figure still sitting there. When you draw near, you see their mug is untouched, and there are dice on the table. No numbers, just eyes, closed. You sit anyway. They never speak, but their hand moves, a slow motion, pushing one die toward you. You touch it, it blinks, and suddenly you see something. Not a vision, not quite, more like an overlay of someone else's memory. You're in a field, surrounded by black birds. Your hands are bloody. You're crying, but not from sadness, from awe. You drop the die. The figure across from you is gone. So are the dice. The hearth is cold. The table is clean, but there's a single coin left behind. You pick it up. It's not metal. It's bone, carved with a face. Yours. You return to the bar with the bone coin in your pocket. It's warm, not just from your hand. Warm like breath, or whisper, or something older. You try not to think about it, but it presses against your thigh like it wants you to remember something you haven't done yet. The alewife is gone. No one seems concerned. The tavern has a way of letting things disappear without ceremony. Even the fire in the hearth burns sideways now, leaning toward the stairwell like it's waiting for someone. You sit at your stool. The man beside you, the one who's been offering quiet commentary on your growing list of mistakes, is gone too. Instead, a rat is sitting on his stool, not moving, just sitting. You blink twice, rub your eyes. Then three things happen in rapid succession. The rat stands upright. It opens its mouth, not like a rodent, but like a choir boy. It sings. Not squeaks, not chatter, it sings. The voice is deep, rich, too human. The song is in no language you know, but your ears translate it anyway, the way dreams do. It's about a castle made of ice and honey, about a queen who traded her name for silence, and a child who followed a shadow into the well and came back as smoke. You are completely still. Everyone in the tavern is. Even the mugs seem to stop sweating. The rat finishes the verse and closes its mouth with reverence, tail curling like punctuation. Then, like a bell tone spreading through water, every rat in the tavern begins to sing with it. Dozens. You hadn't seen them before, but now they're everywhere. On rafters, under stools, behind mugs, all in perfect harmony. You don't know how you feel. Cold, warm, hollow? It's the kind of sound that climbs your spine and unpacks your memories. Ones you never meant to keep. One verse later, the alewife returns. She doesn't stop the music, just sets down a bowl in front of you. Soup. Inside it floats a single clear key. Drink first, she says, then ask. You sip. The broth tastes like forgiveness. You ask, what's the key for? She replies, depends on which door you see next. The rats quiet all at once, as if they heard the word key. One rat, the first one the singer, scurries across the bar, leaps, lands on your shoulder. You tense. It doesn't bite. It just looks at you with eyes that are no longer small or black. They are pale gray, human. It hums the song again, softer. You whisper, what do you want? The rat looks up and speaks. Only one word, return. You whisper, return where? It vanishes. Not jumps, not runs, just gone. Your shoulder is suddenly cold. You down the rest of the broth. The key clinks gently in the bowl. You fish it out. As your fingers close around it, the tavern dims. Not like the lights went out, but like the entire world blinked. When you open your eyes, the alewife is gone again, but her voice lingers in your ear. It's almost morning, it says, and the tavern hates dawn. You look toward the window. Still no outside, just fog. Inside it, you swear you see a black fox. It's wearing a crown. It tilts its head, then vanishes. The candlelight flickers. And in the sudden hush, you realize the singing hasn't stopped. You've just stopped hearing it with your ears. Now it's behind your ribs, in your lungs. Every breath you take hums the tune. You place the key on the bar and wait. The door behind you creaks. Someone enters. You don't look because the door didn't open from the outside. It opened from behind the wall. The key is still on the bar. You haven't touched it since the rat vanished. Not because you're afraid of it, but because you're afraid of what it might fit. It hums now, quietly. A vibration more than a sound, like a trapped sigh. The kind of hum that belongs to old clock towers, sealed letters, and boxes that shouldn't open at night. The tavern is still, not empty, just paused. The fire doesn't flicker. The mugs don't sweat. Even the regulars seem frozen mid-breath, as if someone whispered, wait, and the whole room listened. You turn. The door, the one behind the wall, is now fully visible. It's not shaped like any door you've seen, too narrow, too tall, no knob, just an iron circle in the center. Painted around it in a color that isn't quite red are 4 handprints. One is child-sized, one is clawed, one has too many fingers, and the 4th is yours. You never touch the door, but it knows you. You take the key and step forward. Don't, says the alewife. She's behind you now, exactly where she wasn't. You freeze. You can leave, she says softly, but not through that. You glance at the other door, the one you came through. It's gone. Only a wall now. Then how, you whisper. She tilts her head. You follow her gaze. To the window. You've seen it a dozen times tonight. Never questioned it. But now it feels like the only thing real in the room. The glass glows faintly Behind it, fog, swirling, almost breathing. The door remembers you, she says. The window forgets. You step closer. Outside isn't outside. It's a hallway made of sky, a staircase curling into clouds, a cliff edge made of pages. And floating there, just out of reach, is a memory. Your memory. You at age 7, running down a hallway in socks too big, laughing with someone whose face has long gone missing in your mind. You at 16, under a tree that no longer exists, carving initials you can't recall. You just now blinking. The alewife steps beside you. If you leave by the window, she says, the tavern won't remember you. And if I don't, she looks at your hands. You won't remember yourself. You glance back once more. The door behind the wall is gone, replaced by a mirror. In it, you're older. Your eyes are someone else's. You turn back to the window. It's open, just enough. You climb onto the ledge. The wind outside is warm and humming. You look down. There's no ground, only echoes. You don't jump. You fall sideways, like a yawn, like a song ending too soon. And as the tavern fades behind you, you hear one final voice. The alewife, distant now, soft as ever. Try not to land in a story. They stain. Then everything blurs and softens and slows. Turns out a staircase is more dangerous than most rebellions. If you're still conscious after that, you might be immune to haunted songbook ale. Just don't test it on purpose. Let's drift one layer deeper now. We've left behind the flickering light of taverns and the clang of hammers. The road is dust now, the walls are stone, and your feet, bare and sore, stand on a tiled floor swept by a slave who's pretending not to judge you. Because this next place, it smells like olive oil, ambition, and something sharp in the air. You wake up wearing a toga. It doesn't fit, it itches, and it's definitely on backwards. There's a moment, that sleepy, stretchy blink of early morning, where you think this is just a dream, that someone is about to burst in with coffee and apologies. But instead, a rooster screams outside your window like it's announcing your crimes, and a servant appears with a scroll and a judgmental nose wrinkle. Dominus, she says very formally, you are late for your augury. You blink. My what? She sighs. And just like that, you're being herded through a courtyard lined with olive trees and whispering marble. Statues watch you. They have blank eyes and cruel smiles. One of them is missing its head. It's somehow the most trustworthy face so far. You pass through a hall where men are reclining on cushions, arguing about grain taxes and the shape of clouds. Someone sneezes, someone else shouts ill omen and spills wine on your foot. Welcome to Rome. You are, for reasons unknown, a moderately important Roman citizen. Not powerful enough to have your own personal soothsayer, but definitely important enough to be blamed when something goes wrong. And this morning, something's going wrong. The augur, a man with fingers like chicken bones and a face like dried wax, meets you in the garden. He gestures to a cage full of fat, annoyed birds. We ask, he says, they answer. You nod like that's reasonable. He opens the cage. The birds do not fly out. Instead, they waddle in a circle and peck the dirt in what can only be described as a passive-aggressive ritual. After 10 minutes, the augur turns to you solemnly. They refuse to eat. And that means? He frowns. It means we cancel the meeting, and possibly the wedding, and maybe we execute someone. Oh, he coughs. Or you could pretend they ate. You raise an eyebrow. I won't tell, he adds. You thank him, then immediately trip over a goat. Not a metaphor, a literal goat. It has wandered into the courtyard, chewed part of your toga, and left you with an ominous hoof-shaped bruise on your knee. The augur nods, very serious. Definitely an omen. You make your way to the baths, because that's what one does here. When fate is uncertain, you steam it out. The Roman bathhouse is a place of strange elegance. Steam clouds everything. Conversations bounce off marble. Men with oil-slicked arms debate politics while scrubbing their toes. The water smells faintly of eucalyptus, regret, and ancient sweat. You disrobe, or rather, someone disrobes you. You do your best to look casual as a stranger oils your shoulders. A senator lounges nearby. He's laughing too loudly and eyeing your sandals. New to the city, he asks, swirling a wine cup in water like it's soup. You nod. Watch out for the bakers, he says. You pause. The bakers? He leans closer. Bread riots, happening more often. One bad batch, and the forum goes feral. Oh, he sips. Also avoid the Eastern astrologers. They'll take your coin and predict your death 7 times. You only get 1. Thanks. A dwarf walks past with a tray of salted grapes and absolutely no shame. The senator points with his pinky. That's Marcus, best gossip in the empire. You wave. Marcus does not wave back. In the next room, you hear shouting. 2 gladiators are arguing over who insulted whose sandals. You don't want to be involved, but somehow both point at you. You flee, down a corridor, into a smaller chamber, and straight into a woman dressed like vengeance. Gold pins, black eyes, rings that could slice cheese. You're early, she says. You say nothing. You're here about the omen, she continues. Yes? She sighs. Typical men panic, women organize. She presses a coin into your hand. Throw that into the fountain. Left side, not right, left. You nod. Then light a candle for Jupiter and don't look at the statue. You nod again. You are doing a lot of nodding in Rome. The rest of the day spirals like an amphora down a stairwell. You're pulled into a debate at the forum about public latrine funding. You accidentally sit in the tribune's chair. You eat a fig that might be cursed. By dusk, you're back at your villa, exhausted. There's a message waiting from someone named Cassius. It reads, "The stars spoke, you must attend the feast. Wear red, avoid cats. Don't sit first." You look around. There are 3 cats already in your atrium. One of them nods. You arrive at the feast already sweaty, slightly bruised, and deeply uncertain about whether your toga is appropriate for this kind of doom. The villa belongs to someone named Gaius Lurio Nerva. No one knows what he actually does, but everyone agrees he's dangerous. The guards at the gate wear matching sandals and nothing else. One of them has an eagle tattooed across his entire chest. It winks at you. Inside, the place is lit by 100 oil lamps, each one shaped like something unsettling. A screaming goat, a snake devouring its own tail, a baby holding a scroll. The walls are marble, yes, but stained faintly pink as if the room has been absorbing stories. You're handed a cup of wine before you even see your host. It's warm and smells like something fermented inside a library. You sip it anyway because saying no would be rude, and being rude in Rome sometimes gets you put on a list. Cassius finds you quickly. He's tall, jittery, and smells like rosemary and secrets. He grabs your wrist and whispers, "You can't sit first." "I know," you reply. "Good." He nods, then points across the room. "That's her." You look. The woman from the bathhouse. She's smiling now, but not at you. At a different man in a different toga, nearly identical to yours. Same color, same fold, same slightly confused face. You turn to Cassius. "Who's that?" He gulps. "That's the real you." "Ah, you've been mistaken for someone important. And not just important. Important enough to be watched, handed messages from astrologers, warned about cats, and now invited to a feast where at least one guest is likely to choke on a peacock feather and call it a prophecy. "Do I leave?" you whisper. Cassius shakes his head. You eat, and eat you do. The table groans under the weight of absurd food. Stuffed dormice, candied flowers, honey-soaked fish tongues. A man in a jeweled tunic insists you try the milk of flame, which turns out to be a kind of cheese that crackles in your mouth like tiny thunder. You're on your 4th bite when someone throws a chicken leg across the room. No reason. It hits a centurion. The centurion stands up, and suddenly the feast becomes a riot, but a very polite riot. Fruits are hurled, wine is spilled, someone throws a harp. In the confusion, you're pulled aside by a woman in green. She looks you up and down, then says, "We need you in the arena." You laugh. She does not. "You're the filler match," she explains. "A warm-up. Don't worry, it's staged. Wooden swords, no blood." You're already being dragged toward a side door before you can say, "I'm just visiting." 10 minutes later, you're in a tunic, holding what feels like a very angry stick, and staring across the sand at a man twice your size with the distinct look of someone who didn't read the part about wooden swords. The crowd is already roaring. The man charges. You run. You dodge behind a column. You yell, "Cut," even though this isn't a play. You swing wildly and accidentally knock the man's helmet off. He laughs. Then he hits you so hard you spin. The crowd loves it. Someone tosses you a net. You trip on it. Eventually the man, out of either mercy or boredom, grabs you by the tunic, lifts you upright, and shouts to the crowd, "This one fights like Mercury on stilts." They cheer. You are declared harmless but enthusiastic. You are allowed to leave. Sort of. You limp back to the feast, which has now turned into a poetry reading. You sit in the back, covered in dust, sipping a drink that tastes like regret and mint. Next to you is a boy no older than 12. He says, "You're not really him, are you?" You say, "Who?" He smiles. "Doesn't matter, you're in it now." He hands you a scroll. You open it. Inside, a drawing of your face, smiling, wearing a crown, made of snakes. The next morning begins with birds, not chirping, not singing, arguing. There are two of them perched outside your window. Ravens, you think, cawing at each other with the intensity of lawyers mid-trial. One has a scrap of red cloth in its beak. The other keeps pecking at the window, as if trying to wake you with legal objections. When you finally stagger outside, toga wrinkled and sandals swapped left for right, a messenger is already waiting. He looks exhausted. "You're late," he says, before you've even asked where you're supposed to be. "For what?" you groan. He doesn't answer, just hands you a small wax tablet. On it, scrawled hastily, "Temple, Jupiter, urgent. Bring an offering. Do not mix up the gods this time." Ah, you remember now. Yesterday, sometime between the chicken leg and the harp, you may have wandered into the wrong temple and left a peach as a tribute to Mars, which was unfortunate, because peaches are sacred to Venus. And Mars and Venus haven't been on speaking terms since the affair, literally. So now you owe someone, or everyone, an apology offering. You stop at a stall near the forum. Buy a fig, a decent one, 2 coins. You ask the vendor, which god likes figs? He shrugs, whichever one you're not praying to. Comforting. You make your way to the temple of Jupiter, all grand columns and judgmental pigeons. You climb the steps, fig in hand, ready to grovel and hope for thunderous forgiveness. But just as you step inside, you hear the laugh. Low, familiar. A gladiator. The same one from the arena. He's lounging on a marble bench inside Jupiter's temple like it's a tavern, sipping from a flask carved from bone. He grins when he sees you. You again, little Mercury on stilts. You smile weakly. "Didn't know you were religious," you offer. He raises an eyebrow. "Didn't know you were suicidal." You pause. "Ah, why?" He nods toward the altar. There are 2 offerings already there, a dagger wrapped in gold ribbon and a rooster feather dipped in wine. "Problem is," he says, "Jupiter wasn't scheduled for visitors today." "Then who?" "Wrong temple," he interrupts. Again, you look at the walls. Carvings of wings, feathers, eyes. This isn't Jupiter's house. It's the Sibyl's, a shrine for visions, prophecies. The kind of place where people leave locks of hair and whispered secrets, not figs and guilt. You mutter, "How was I supposed to know?" The gladiator laughs again, not cruelly, but like someone who enjoys a good doomed stranger. He claps a hand on your shoulder. "I like you. You're like a dream that forgot where it was going." You're about to ask for help when someone else enters. An official, robed, stern. He points at you. "You brought the fig?" You nod, confused. "Good," he says. "You're part of the procession now." "What procession?" He doesn't answer. Just tosses you a mask, a heavy golden thing shaped like a lion's face. You're shoved outside and find yourself in the middle of a parade, marching down the street in borrowed sandals and a lion mask, holding a fig, and trying not to trip on the hem of your too long toga. Children cheer. Goats bleat. Someone throws a date at your head. At one point, a trumpet blares in your ears so loudly you forget your own name for 30 seconds. The gladiator marches beside you, holding a torch and grinning like this is all a private joke. Finally, the parade halts at the forum. You are lifted, actually lifted, onto a small platform and instructed to make the offering. You place the fig in a bowl. The bowl erupts in flame. People cheer. You bow. Then the bowl explodes. Not violently, more like a dramatic poof, but your mask is singed. Smoke curls around you like stagecraft. And when it clears, the crowd is silent. You have no idea what just happened. But then a voice, high, old, and unmistakably divine, rings through the air. He has spoken. Everyone kneels, except the gladiator who leans in and whispers, "What did you say?" You shrug. "I just put down a fig." He nods slowly. "Well, I think you're a high priest now." You'd think becoming the high priest of anything would come with a handbook, or at least a robe that fits. Instead, you've been handed a crown of laurel leaves that smells like damp oregano, a staff that's more ornamental than useful, and an entourage of extremely serious people who bow too often and never blink. Your first duty? Appear calm. Your second? Attend the vestal ceremony. You're not entirely sure what that means, but apparently he has spoken. The mysterious voice that thundered after your fig offering is being interpreted as divine approval for you to witness, oversee, or possibly just silently exist near a sacred rite involving the Vestal Virgins. A soldier escorts you through a maze of alleys and arches. Smile, he says, look like you're not cursed. You try. It comes out more like indigestion. The Vestal Temple is quiet, cold, and made entirely of rules. A circle of robed women stand around a sacred flame. Their expressions range from ethereal to exhausted. One of them keeps glancing at the sky like she's expecting something or someone to fall out of it. You are seated on a stone bench that appears to have never been comfortable. A woman steps forward. This is a solemn rite, she says. We ask the gods for signs. You nod. This feels safe. Then she adds, from birds. You hesitate. Specifically, she continues, vultures. Ah, you say too loudly. The crowd turns. An acolyte releases a bundle of doves. They fly upward. A moment passes. Then the doves scatter, followed by the arrival of two very large, very lazy-looking vultures who land on the ceremonial platform with all the grace of sacks of flour. They stare at the crowd. The crowd stares back. The woman beside you whispers, if they fly to the left, it's a good omen. If right, we postpone. You nod. The vultures do nothing. They sit. One scratches its beak against the platform. The other poops. There is murmuring in the crowd. Are they broken? Someone whispers. You suggest clapping. Everyone ignores you. A wind picks up. The birds ruffle their feathers. Then, with all the drama of a minor deity waking from a nap, one vulture flaps its wings and takes off. To the left, everyone gasps. The second vulture hops sideways and jumps off the platform. Not flies, just hops. It lands on the ground, looks around, and begins pecking at someone's sandal. That doesn't count, someone mutters. Arguments begin. Half the crowd says it was a leftward omen. The other half insists the second bird technically didn't fly, and therefore the rite must be redone. A man in gold robes approaches you. High priest, he says, you must interpret. You blink. I'm new, you say. He nods gravely. Yes, and thus, uncorrupted. You close your eyes and listen. The wind whistles. A feather drifts past your nose. A child sneezes. Then, as if the universe itself is playing along, a third vulture, where from, you'll never know, descends from nowhere and lands directly on your shoulder. Everyone gasps again. The bird croaks once and throws up. You sit very still. It is a cleansing, the woman beside you whispers, eyes wide with wonder. Of what, you ask? Of doubt. The bird flaps its wings, claws at your sleeve, and launches skyward with a noise that sounds like a disgruntled cough. The entire crowd bows. You are now officially known as the one who bore the third. A scribe etches it into a tablet. By evening, your likeness is being carved into a votive stone. Your expression, mildly ill and extremely confused. Morning comes gently, which is suspicious. After everything, the fig, the vulture, the inexplicable priesthood, you'd expect Rome to wake you with trumpet, fanfare, or at least a minor earthquake. Instead, it's birdsong. Light wind and the subtle scent of toasted barley wafting in from somewhere beyond your tiny courtyard. You open your eyes. You're in a bed. Not yours. It's too clean, too soft, and not on fire, which disqualifies most Roman furniture. A scroll rests on your chest, sealed with wax, and a ribbon bearing the imperial insignia, a wreath around a frown. You sit up, stretch, crack several things that shouldn't be crackable, and break the seal. Inside, to the honorable mouth of Jupiter's fog, we assume this is you, you are summoned to breakfast with the emperor's cousin, Gaius Sextus Palatinus, to discuss recent omens, public reactions, and your unsanctioned contact with birdkind. Wear something nice. Avoid politics. You groan. Half an hour later, you're bathed, toweled, and toegate once again. This time the fit is marginally better, and someone has even attempted to brush your hair into compliance. You look like someone who might own a vineyard, but still doesn't know where raisins come from. The breakfast chamber is excessive. Gold everywhere, silk table runners, peacocks, actual living peacocks, strutting by the fountain and glaring at the fruit. Gaius Sextus Palatinus is already seated. His tunic is embroidered with constellations that haven't been discovered yet. His eyebrows are sharp enough to vote. You, he says, not looking up, are late. I was never told a time, you say, sitting carefully. He waves this off. Time is for cowards. Eat. The spread is absurd. Honeyed lark tongues, smoked eel and fig glaze, cheese molded into the faces of senators. You reach for a modest olive. Not that one, he snaps. It's decorative, symbolizes restraint. You choose a date instead. It fights back. He watches you chew. Then the people are talking about you. You nod. Yes, well, vultures do tend to... Not just the vultures, he interrupts. The fig, the procession, the dream of the baker's cat. Do you deny appearing in it? You stare. I've never met the baker's cat. Of course you haven't, he mutters. Cats dream sideways. You were seen riding a cloud and shouting tax advice. You pause. What did I say? That's not the point, he snaps. He gestures to a servant. They produce a scroll. It unrolls and unrolls and unrolls. It's a list. At the top, people who have recently spoken to birds. Your name is second. You ask, who's first? He looks mildly offended. Me. Ah. He leans in. This is Rome. Birds matter. Breakfast matter. Faces matter. You nod very slowly. And yours, he says, gesturing vaguely, is distressingly sincere. He snaps his fingers. Another servant appears with a mirror. You look. Your face looks exactly like someone who's had too many weird nights and still doesn't know how figs work. There's a smudge of laurel oil on your cheek, a bandage on your wrist from a prophetic chicken scratch, and the faint outline of a lion mask, sunburn still peeling. Gaius sighs. I could have you exiled, he says, bored. You nod. But that would be expensive, so instead you're being reassigned. You raise an eyebrow. To where? Border town, he says, dusty, quiet. Nothing happens. You'll bless irrigation canals and inspect sacred onions. You blink. There's a temple, he adds, dedicated to something. We've forgotten, possibly frogs. You are escorted out before you can protest. Your sandals are missing. Again, you spend the next 2 hours barefoot, wandering the forum, sipping watered wine that tastes like regret and soap, wondering if maybe the baker's cat was right. When you return to your room, another scroll awaits. This one is unsigned, just 6 words. You did better than the birds. You laugh. It's the first honest one in days. And that's where we leave you, dusty, barefoot, and one prophecy away from permanent retirement. Because in Rome, no one really wins. You just survive. And if you do it with some dignity in both eyebrows, you've already beaten the odds. A pie is lovely. 14 pies, that's divine punishment. If you're still listening, tell me what your gladiator name would be. Go ahead, make it weird. Now the light is gone, the feasts are over, the roads grow quiet. No more marble halls, no more bronze lions, just the hush of something older. Dustier, hungrier. We go now to the first edge of empire, the place where names are traded for numbers and sandals don't come back. Ready? And now the fire has cooled. The hammer rests, the ale has gone flat. The vultures have stopped circling, for now. The roads are empty again, dust swept clean by quiet wind, the kind of wind that forgets it was ever loud. You sit somewhere far from stories now, wrapped in silence, half asleep, not sure if the night really ended or just curled in on itself like a cat behind the stove. The forge no longer calls. The tavern door is shut. Even the dreams with lion masks and prophetic birds have wandered off into fog. What's left? Only the soft ache behind your eyes, the warmth behind your ribs, that vague, cozy dizziness that means your mind is unclenching. Finally, you're still here, still breathing. You made it. Through fire, through ale, through sandals that never quite fit, and prophecies delivered by poultry. Let that thought drift with you. You don't have to remember every part. You don't have to carry the full weight of what was strange or crooked or brilliant. Just let the images float. The sound of hammers, the hum of song, the swish of Roman robes in a hallway too wide. The body knows when to rest. The mind eventually follows. So breathe. Let your thoughts settle like cooled bronze. Let your breath drift steady and slow. A rhythm, like footsteps down a long stone corridor. You're far from the forge now, far from the table, far from the empire. No one needs anything from you tonight. There are no more omens to read, no more birds to interpret, no more questions from men in embroidered sandals. Only quiet, only the night, only sleep. And you, tucked just beneath it, floating, still, safe, gone.